So what do we have to do? What we have got to do, and the reason I'm here in West Virginia, I'm not here just to give a speech. I am here to beg of you to organize around this state, get working class people organized to stand up and fight the fights that have to be fought. Now, whether the Democratic Party is capable of making the changes that are needed, I don't know. But if not, you make it for them. We already have one party that represents the rich and the powerful. We don't need two. But our mission right now is not just taking on Trump, which we have got to do every day. The reason that Trump was elected is that he kept saying, you know, the system is broken. And he's right. The system is broken, but the problem is he is going to only make it worse. So let's look at a broken system, and let's talk about what we have got to do. Anybody here think that the American healthcare system is vaguely effective? I want you all to know, we spend as a nation almost twice as much per capita on healthcare as do the people of any other nation. You all know that? We are spending an insane $14,000 a year for every man, woman, and child. Add it all up. Medicare, Medicaid, personal health care. $14,000 a year. Now, if you're going to spend $14,000, we should have, by far, the best health care system in the world. Well, you know what? Not only do we not have the best, study after study shows that we have one of the worst of any major industrialized country. So are you ready for a radical statement? All right, I don't want you collapsing here. The function of a rational health care system is to provide quality care to every man, woman, and child, not huge profits for the drug companies and the insurance companies. It is insane. It is literally insane that we have some 60,000 Americans, and you may know some of them, who die every single year because they cannot afford to get to a doctor on time. It is beyond unspeakable that some 40% of older people who are diagnosed with cancer end up going bankrupt or depleting their finances. Health care is a human right, not a privilege. And we have got to join every other major country on earth in guaranteeing health care to all Americans. And I want you just to think, and again, guys, this is not a radical idea. I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border somehow or another, spending about half as much as we do. They guarantee health care to all people. You end up in a hospital in Canada, you know what the bill is when you leave? It's zero. And that is more or less the case in most wealthy countries. So stand up proudly and make it clear that when anyone who comes before you and says, vote for me, you say, yeah, tell me that you're going to guarantee health care to all, that you have the guts to take on the insurance companies and the drug companies. But it is not just healthcare system which is broken. It's our educational system as well. We got any teachers here? Thank you, teachers. These are our heroines and heroes who every day go to work under very stressful conditions because they love the kids that they're working with, and we thank you very much. But again, in the wealthiest nation on earth, we should have a child care system which cherishes our little ones. And by the way, when we talk about a broken system, while Elon Musk is worth $400 billion, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. So when you hear all of these politicians say they love America, if you love America, you love the future of America, which is our children. And yet we have a child care system. I don't know how much it costs here in West Virginia, but in my state, people are paying $20,000 to send one kid to child care. Well, if you're making $50,000 a year, how do you afford $20,000? And meanwhile, the teachers are making, 15, 16 bucks an hour. So we need to understand that in a vibrant democracy, which is what I want us to be, in a competitive global economy, which we are in, we need the best educational system in the world. And that means that we appreciate our educators. In Vermont, there are districts in rural areas where people are starting off at $35,000, $40,000 a year teaching. And housing is pretty expensive in Vermont. That's why we have introduced legislation that says every teacher in America earns at least $60,000 a year. There was once a time when proudly the United States led the world in having the best educated population. We had a higher percentage of our people getting college degrees than any other country. That, you should all know, is no longer the case. What we have got to do is to make it clear that we want our young people, all of our young people, regardless of their income, to be able to get the best education that they can. And that means that we've got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And that we have to make trade schools available to all people to get the training they need to do the work we desperately need. Oh, you have something here? But it's not just education. Once again, point that I'm making is, look, if we were a poor country, I'd come before you and say, look, it really would be great if everybody had health care, if all of our kids could get a decent education. We're a poor country. We can't afford it. Brothers and sisters, we are not a poor country. We're the richest country in the history of the world. And when we talk about a broken system, talk about the major housing crisis that we face in America. We got 800,000 Americans who are homeless. We got 20 million households spending 50% of their limited incomes on housing. If we can spend $1 trillion a year on a bloated military budget, we can build the millions of units of low-income and affordable housing we need. And at a time when wages have been stagnant for decades, at a time when millions of Americans today are working for starvation wages. I remember talking more than once to single moms trying to raise kids on 11, 12 bucks an hour, and you can't do that. We have got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, at least 17 bucks an hour. Brothers and sisters, I know that West Virginia has a history of being one of the great trade union states in America. And we remember the incredible courage of your coal miners and others who stood up against corporate greed. Now, right now, because of what we're seeing in our economy, millions of workers now want to join unions. And in fact, the trade union movement has never been as popular as today as it has been in a very long time. Because workers understand what is obviously true, that if you want decent wages, decent benefits, decent working conditions, you got to join with your brothers and sisters, form a union, and negotiate a decent contract. Now, I know that, you know that, and the bosses know that, and that is why we are seeing massive anti-union, union-busting efforts all across this country. And that's why we've got to pass what's called the PRO Act. And that means that if an employer acts illegally in preventing workers from exercising their constitutional right, there'll be very heavy penalties against that employer. Unbelievably, the United States is one of very few countries in the world that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. Well, let's put that up on the agenda. When a kid gets sick, a mom has a right to stay home with that kid without worrying about being fired. So, brothers and sisters, I am not going to fool you. You understand, as I do, that the oligarchs have enormous, unlimited amounts of wealth. They have enormous power. They control the media. They own the media. And they own many of the places that you work in. But this is what I believe from the bottom of my heart. If we do not allow Trump and his friends to play the same old demagogic trick of trying to divide us up, oh, you're undocumented, you're black, you're Muslim, you're Jewish, you're this, you're that, we got to all be separate. Our job is to bring our people together around an agenda that works for all of us.